Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. Here, we look closely at the intersections of the postpartum window, the Ayurvedic perspective on health and healing, and the universal mother principles that are the keys to giving and receiving effective care. Hello, I'm Christine Devlin Eck. I'll be taking you through interviews with professionals who are making a profound difference in the lives of their clients, conversations with individuals brave enough to share their stories of vulnerability as a way to lift up others, and my own journey through birth, parenting, caregiving, and building a conscious business. We are here to honor the sacred windows, the profound transitions in life that give it all meaning. Welcome to the conversation.
And I will never be the same again.
Welcome to the Sacred Window podcast. I'm so happy to welcome Carrie Lavie to our space today. Carrie is a clinical nutritionist and certified Ayurvedic practitioner. She's been working for over 3 decades in the study of the healing arts, including specialized training through the Sacred Window care. She brings together Ayurvedic wisdom, modern nutritional science, and an intuitive caring approach to support women through all of the stages, from menstruation through the sacred window and into perimenopause and menopause. Carrie and I have connected recently, and I'm so eager to have her come this summer to be a guest instructor with our student community. But we're going to be exploring the Ayurvedic approach to mental health and how this is so incredibly important for today, where not only just new families are struggling with mental health, but everyone is navigating some element of searching for balance in our subtle systems. And this Ayurvedic understanding is really, really filling in places where our Western science doesn't fully embody what balance means in the mind and the heart. And so, Carrie, I'm so grateful to you for coming on to this podcast today. And we talked a little bit before I pressed record about how in Ayurveda, when we are looking at mental health, we're acknowledging that the heart is the seat of the mind, and how the heart and the mind are intrinsically connected. And to me, this opens up a whole world of perspective on how we can be balanced in our subtle mind and our heart. So, first of all, thank you for being here. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thanks so much. It's so nice to be here. I've been so looking forward to this. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
We got really excited on the phone when we talked a few weeks back about everything that you've been doing. And tell me a little bit about, you have been a long time student and teacher of Ayurveda, but what has been the evolving thread for you in kind of drawing together working with women and mental health?
Well, yeah, that's a kind of a long question, because to find that original thread, I think it always begins in our own self-discovery, with our own growing. And particularly after my son was born, I had been doing yoga for a number of years, and that was really something that really drew me in this direction of a type of embodiment, a type of trusting the person within, all of those kinds of things. So that's some of the outcome of yoga, I think. And so I really used that all through my birth. And during the birth, I had felt such a strong connection. And actually in the pregnancy, but especially in the birthing, I felt that it was a co-birthing. And that really completely reoriented my entire mind to um, relatedness, I guess, at a different level. And it was very clear that there was a conversation happening during that birth, during the birth, that we had to have this tunement to be able to respond, breathe, move, respond, breathe, move. And in that also was this understanding that there's a certain flow in that experience. So, excuse me. So once my son was born, and of course, you can never explain that first moment. And I think some seed was planted in terms of no matter what, this was the priority to maintain this connection. That, you hear before they cry when they need milk, you hear before they're upset if they have something that's, scratching them, or you see what they need, really. It's a different sort of connection, and that brings a real ease and trust. And so in that time period, I felt there was this dual aspect that was happening. One was that I was doing this real deep care work, and I was resting, out of sort of no choice. You have to, it was a little bit immobilizing. You have to rest and so on. But I didn't have the nutrition aspect. I had the hypnobirthing and different affirmation, things like that helped me. But so over time, I just felt like that I think really led to everything because maintaining that connection, because it's maintaining the connection to your being and it's maintaining the connection to your life as a mother, so your growth and your now experience of relating with another individual outside of you that has this really unique connection. So, of course, like a lot of moms, I started having back pain, because even if we're living off the strength of postpartum, it's such a gift, We're undertaking so much rejuvenation in our system from nature. And postpartum Ayurveda really helps support that. But we can do things that maybe, that saying of just because you can do it doesn't mean you can. I mean, just doesn't mean you should. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So I came to a point where I realized, okay, I need something deeper. And I had the sense that there was something deep that was depleted. When I went back to my yoga practice, I'd hurt my back or I'd hurt my neck or something, and I could tell that something wasn't right on a deeper level physiologically. So that's really what started me undertaking my own Ayurvedic care, self-care. And then, of course, if you start to go down that road, you're only going to expand because, like my teacher says, Ayurveda is an ocean. And if you start down the learning, it opens a door to a life of learning, going deeper into your own self-care, into your family, into life, and into others. And ultimately, what really touched me about Ayurveda is, I'm sorry I don't have a proper quote on this, but that the Vaidya, the Ayurvedic doctor, they have the tools to know what to do to balance themselves. But it doesn't mean something unless it's all of, unless it's shared, unless it's in a service, unless it's everyone's coming along with you on that journey. So after that, study and study and study until now. So, of course, there's so many branches that come out of that thread, but I would say that, that's a long explanation to your question.
Thank you so much. There's a couple things that you mentioned that really exemplify the leading with the heart, and the first that I was listening to was when you were talking about your birth and how you were relating and communicating and realizing that this was a relational process and that you and your son together needed to go through this.
Mm,
And we can't really experience that relational process without the heart involved.
mhm,
And the other piece that you shared was, you know, thinking about Ayurveda and going on that journey. It doesn't have the meaning that it can unless we share it with others, unless we
mm,
are relating and opening up our own experience to be in connection with other people through this sacred life opportunity that we have. So I think, to me, this is lived Ayurveda. And Ayurveda, while, I kind of myself sort of stumbled upon it and just didn't really know why I was following this, but I knew that I was supposed to. And as
mm,
I've grown into my relationship with it over the last, many years, it it isn't in a box anywhere. It's woven into every breath. It's woven into every moment, every meal, every resting time, every active time, and every season. And so we see this and experience like every single one of us, whether or not, our listeners out there know what Ayurveda means or not, like we're part of it. It is this pulsing experience of life and humanity. But like coming into that, I want to hear from you that when you started studying the Ayurvedic approach to mental health
mm,
and that core philosophy of the heart being the seat of the mind, how did that like draw you in or just talk a little bit about that piece of it for me?
mm. I think it grew over time. I think it started way back in terms of a question about how one to keep the heart open in life. So we talk about trying to keep the heart open in life, but we also need to we can't just be, um, oh, how would you say it? We can't just be laissez-faire about that. It needs to be grounded in something. But for me, there was always that question about maintaining some openness in the heart because it's our gateway to trust, to rest, to calm, to intelligence, to concentration, to connection. And so I feel like that was probably as long as I can remember was a part of maybe my soul question. And in terms of Ayurveda, so, that grew on because, of course, you go into motherhood and, we're in a family of motherhood here. So, and you have to respond to moments and situations in a different way than when you were just you. When you're just you, you can say, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to. But now you have a responsibility, and sometimes you have to do what's past your limits. In Ayurveda, we say that stress, the definition of stress is actually moving past your limit, and that's related to each individual. So, stress becomes when we go past our threshold, then we move into a state of stress. So, many times as mothers, we need to do it. And we do it because we have children that need us. We do it because we're in a society now where we don't have all the network that, comes in at the right moment or fills spaces for us. So, so for me, this question of keeping the heart protected, open, soft, receptive within that situation became really important. So I think that that has a very natural relationship with mental health because when you are, being pushed past and you don't have a choice and you love your children more than anything, so you're going to bring it out from yourself. Of course, birth also shows us that we have such a reserve that we don't even draw on a strength. But sometimes it's more than, you need to rest and you need to have nourishment or something that's not available. So for me, that aspect of mental health became very clearly related to how nourished, that's my business is called Nourish, how nourished your being is will be how grounded and cared for and um, clear your mind will be. And so often we go to the mental problem. So the stress is a mental problem. Then we become very depleted from the stress. So anxiety comes because our system's now at a different level of depletion. And now and so that's partly why my passion, because um, we we don't need to label ourselves as that, rather to find where it's the missing piece, where are the missing pieces, where's the missing nourishment, what needs to be nourished on a deeper level. And then
Mm.
and then other things come down on their own. And it's part of a natural life is that we'll have challenges. And so that's not to discredit that there are times when there's serious situations on a mental level that we have to attend to. But speaking generally, so the heart, the mind, and how we care for ourselves, how we're nourished, and how we treat ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we accept that other people are viewing our situation. It's all really important. And it all comes back to that self-love. And if we can have some measure of self-love, and then we can give a certain care to our heart. So that opens a whole other world of now we're talking about the heart, the mind, the heart, the brain, the heart, the circulation, the heart, the embodiment. So it can keep on going. So, yeah, you've got some.
So, Carrie, this is so beautiful to me because it really shows how when we are in a place that's tender, such as the sacred window, or when we're in any tender place of just vulnerability or stress, you were talking about sort of that core concept of self-love. And when we are able to foster that, it immediately impacts our state of balance in the mind. And there's so many pieces that kind of lead up to that ability to experience self-love and surrender into it. And this is where, the Ayurvedic perspective is so helpful because we have so many avenues by which we can more fully align with that pathway towards experiencing true love for ourself, which then opens us up to bonding with our babies, bonding with our spouse or our partners, bonding with loved ones around us, and then sort of all of those open pathways together create a more nourished and balanced experience in the mind.
Mm.
When you are working with people and the goal is to create a more balanced mental state and emotional state, what does that pathway look like?
Mhm. So this is where the art of Ayurveda comes. And this is why also in Ayurveda we do really need to take an individualized approach. So there are blanket things that help all women in postpartum or in their life. We have common concerns in general. And there's, things that we can say for the average healthy person, what they can do. But Ayurveda gives us a whole range of ways to work with an individual depending on their specific situation. So one is to come to an understanding of the individual's situation, their makeup, their current issues, and that gives us real insight into how it's playing out in their body mind system. So, how that's manifesting. When we understand how that's manifesting for them, then we can take the approaches. So, we use diet, we use lifestyle, we use Ayurvedic medicines, we use body work. So, there's a whole range of how much you would work with a person. So some people just want to hear, give me 3 things to do each day. Some people want to have the whole story and I'm going to do the whole entire thing and I'm going to stick with it and I'm going to follow. So really there's these two sides. Is one, you have to actually really get to know the person. You have to, on a very deep level, understand something about them. And to do that, you have to draw on all the aspects of yourself to see that person. Then we have so many tools. So we have Sattvavaya Chikitsa, which is a form of Ayurvedic psychotherapy, which works with something called Sadrita, which is sort of maybe you can align it with Niyamas. We have the body work, if you want to relate directly with some Marma therapy or Abhyanga, Shirodhara. We have various things like that depending on appropriateness for the individual. Then, of course, nutrition. And the biggest thing, they're all the biggest thing. But for moms at home, the lifestyle piece makes a huge impact. So our bodies are not separate from nature. And as women, as moms, as mothers who've given birth, understand that very well. We enter into direct relationship with Mother Nature when we birth and we carry, and we feel that support, we feel that clear connection. So we have a special step into that understanding that we are part of nature. And nature, just as women, their monthly cycle, 9 months of birth, which is, has its own cycles within it. And postpartum is within a cycle as well. We are cyclical in nature, and nature is cyclical. So as women, one of the biggest things that we can do for ourselves, is to create an appropriate for you, what's possible for you, routine that's based on circadian rhythms. And the thing with that is that even if it's only 1 or 2 things that align, is that we do 2 things. One is that we show ourselves that we can trust ourselves because we show up for ourselves continually. And we make it as a habit that we show up for ourselves. It's like the mom who always shows up to pick up their kid from school. They don't think that they're not going to show up. They think that the mother's going to be there to pick them up. And that's because every day at the same time she did. So, in the same way, we give ourselves that very deep nervous system trust, really, by establishing routine in our own life. And then the bodily processes are all supported. So we start to feel better, our mind gets lighter, we are not as distracted with feeling that we have a million things here and there. Instead, we have a bit of a framework. And so I feel that the lifestyle part is not only extremely accessible, because it can be depending on your situation, there can always work in something that would work.
Mhm.
And it also has this incredible um, way of working on so many levels in our body. It works on the digestion, it works on the mind, it works on the nervous system, it works on our sense of trust in ourselves, and then ultimately it can become this love too. So that's one thing I feel is that even if you don't have the feeling to give to yourself, you know, maybe you have a lot of hurt, maybe you have a lot of build up, maybe it's been hard, or maybe you've had trauma, or maybe you've had a difficult time, is we don't even have to, we just need to give ourselves to that routine for a short time. And it's like a boat. It's like a boat that we now sit in, and we are no longer on this current of we're taking the waves on the boat, and we have a nice container for ourselves. So, we don't have to believe anything about what we can or can't do. We just create that, and it, in its own way, gives us support.
How are you sharing your gifts and passion for caregiving with others? In a world where education and awareness around the postpartum window is lacking or missing from our modern systems, we have a profound opportunity to shift that paradigm. You may be a few simple offerings away from making a truly impactful difference in the lives of mothers and families in your community. We are here to support your journey in the ways that work best for you. Schedule a conscious care strategy session to meet one on one with me, and let's identify the right next step for you to begin a path of conscious care for new families that fits your life and your needs. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session to schedule a time that works best for you. That's www.sacredwindowstudies.com/strategy-session. Mm, there's a lot of self-trust there too. And
Mm,
what I find about the postpartum window in particular is that, my our teacher, Yesha Oaks, would always say that the heart is just wide open at this time. And,
yes.
the things that what is so beautiful about this is that the things that we provide to ourselves, which are nourishing, have an almost more immediate impact than it might have at another time.
Hmm.
And also, when there's something that is maybe more difficult to take in, we may feel that on an enhanced level, on a greater level than we might at any other time. But always remembering that any care or love or action of balance that we provide to ourselves during that sacred window time, we can trust. We can trust that it will be received and will be held by it and will be impacted by it really in an immediate way. And I
Mm,
think when can become slower and more present,
mm,
it's when we get kind of carried away with things that are not in the present moment, whether it's things that happened before or whether it's things that are we're unsure if they're going to happen or what might happen tomorrow, when we're really allowing ourselves to be present with whatever action or routine or gift to ourselves that we're doing in this moment. um, that's when I really personally notice, oh
Mm,
wow, I can really feel that impact now, whether it was like a cup of tea at the right moment, or the ability to
mm,
lay down and close my eyes, or looking into my baby's eyes or my children's eyes, or just taking a moment and just being fully present. And there's
mm.
such a heart opening that happens in that moment, just naturally.
Yes. Yeah. You know that this all relates very strongly to that particular uh, influence that's during postpartum, which you know as vata. And of course, depending on the individual, there can be other doshas at play. There can be, and issues in the channels. There can be various things. But when we speak about postpartum, we speak about vata.
Mm.
So vata, the four from the texts, the four emotions of vata are fear, insecurity, uncertainty, and grief. So those are the four emotions related to vata.
Mm.
And also, vata has this ability of clairvoyance. Vata has this ability of a kind of a heart relation, but it can also be easily hurt. So it can be sensitive in a certain way. So it's a gift, and it's also something we need to protect a little bit. And then of course other doshas, depending on your constitution, can play into that, especially pitta and sensitivity. But the openness is the part that we're really also trying to protect in postpartum. We're trying to protect who the mother's being exposed to. We're trying to protect the space the mother's in. And so this is the other thing about Ayurveda, is that one, prepare the ground, because we know what the imbalance, what the difficulties are going to be in that time period, at that time period. And Ayurveda offers us how to even prepare the space. It would have been that even building a separate place that's, you know, it's disinfected with lime, and there's in particular directions do you have things oriented in the space. And we have this wisdom that's built around understanding exactly what is going to be happening in our system after the birth. And there's a few things that they say after postpartum, which you probably know this, that one is that we should have assurance from attendants, qualified attendants who have knowledge and wisdom. And we need to have this environment that's free from drafts, free from too much excitability, staying in, away from too much sensory input during that time. So we really are actually protecting that openness in a deep way. And a lot of women don't get that protection. And they have, this deep heart hurts, and sometimes anxieties that carry on for years because they had that everything that was not helpful for them at that moment or in that time period. So, again, as you know, we have things we can take, things we can do on the body. We do massage, we do things that bring the vata down in the body. We bring the binding. We do all these things that actually help. And ultimately, which was part of what we spoke about earlier, we hope that the mom can emerge not only back to her her state of health, her state of Agni, her digestive fire, her state of Ojas, her strength and vitality. Hopefully, she comes out with that, but hopefully, she also comes out as a new mom, as a new person, as a new woman who's gone through this process. And now, you know, you've probably seen this, heard this, is that you enter into a really different relationship with what your capacity is as a mom. So hopefully, not only are we able to support the mom to come back to her strength and vitality, but that we also support her to have a heart that's supported and nourished and cared for, and that um, can be held in her own strength too. We support her own strength. Actually, we're always supporting her own inner healer and her own strength. So, of course, the relationship between that and mental health is quite clear. So,
Yeah, it's really about bringing the care and opening the pathways for the person to walk down that path on their own. It's not about putting a person onto a framework to fix them. It's really just helping to clear and allow alignment for that person to just move through, because that's what nature does. Nature just does. Nature just goes, and our healing process knows what to do. There's such automatic inner universal wisdom at play that when we create the conditions, healing happens.
mm,
And I think what's so striking to me and so affirming is the coming back to the Ayurvedic definition of perfect health, which involves, aligning the body and taking care of elimination and digestion, and how that um, allows us access to self-love and heart and emotional health, which then, the sequence isn't, linear. It's the cyclical, beautiful, well-rounded approach to feeling the most authentic version of ourselves that we can. And when we
mm,
are in that authentic, pure, divine version of ourselves, we feel mentally strong, we feel emotionally connected, we feel resilient to handle those stressors that
mm,
inevitably will come as we journey through life. And so, when I think about supporting new parents who are really struggling with how to feel connected to themselves, how to feel connected to their babies, struggling with mental health. And I see the statistics and the numbers of so many people struggling with perinatal
mm,
anxiety disorders.
mm,
It it feels so critical to help people recognize that when we care for our bodies, we're caring for our heart, we're caring for our mind, and there's autonomy, there's action, there's practical action that we can do to help create a more easeful experience of peace of mind, that sattva that we're aiming to experience. And the modern understanding of what to do for mental health is not complete. It's not
mm.
complete.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is part of the um, understanding of the holistic nature of the person. And so, even if you want to talk about gut-brain axis, the enteric nervous system related to vata in the gut. And so there's some touching, but Ayurveda brings this very different understanding of how the mind really works with the whole of the system and the whole of the individual. And the other thing is that Ayurveda gives us information about women, which we don't have in the Western model. So that is, a tradition that was lost. It stayed alive in other traditional cultures, including in Ayurveda, in Ayurvedic medicine. And we have a whole uh, understanding about women at all their stages of life and related to their reproduction, related to things that they just don't, there just isn't that information. So it's really only these traditional systems that stayed alive that understand the complexities of, I'm sorry about that, that understand the complexities of women and have actually an entire system built around how to help women. So there's that. And then there's also this aspect of the the brain, the changing brain. So even neuroscience now recognizes that postpartum has this neuroplasticity, it's going through a change, just like in adolescence, in menopause, it's going as well. So there are these changes, real changes that are occurring that give us this opportunity to have a exponential effect on what we do in those times. So, and how we nurture ourselves in this time, in those times. And that's why they say 42 days for 42 years, that's the power of rejuvenation of those 42 days, because it's the body is everything is working to bring all of its power. So when we support that really well, we have this ability to help the body, the mind, the entire system. And I think that the ripple of that is, especially with children who are picking up on, that's not meant to be a pressure, but they're related to us. So they have this attunement to how we are. Um, so they're just we don't have we didn't there just is missing. We're coming, maybe moving along, and maybe there's influences from places, but this holistic understanding of what women need is really important, as you said. Yeah.
Mm. Carrie, when you work with individuals, do you do that only? So I didn't mention at the beginning of our conversation that you're from Canada, in Ontario, near Toronto. Um, when you work with families, are you working with them virtually or do you work with people only in person? And I know you teach quite a bit as well.
Yeah, so really a combination. So I was doing more in person, focusing more really specifically on postnatal yoga, restorative yoga for postpartum, marma therapy and restorative yoga postpartum, and weaving Ayurveda, postpartum Ayurveda. Um, there was a period of time where I was doing that, working with a clinic in a clinic of doulas, teaching in their space and various things like that, working individually, going to people's homes. And then also later, I started to really maybe work more with women in general. So online, people in different places. I mean, really, COVID opened that for people. And that is that really is a good option for people to be able to meet online. I mean, we all want to be in person, but it's really helpful when we live in all these different places to be able to connect in some way. And then also in person, I mean, presentations or offering some body work in my home clinic. So it's really a combination. right now. And I'm studying a lot as well. So,
We
um,
never stop. We never
yeah,
stop studying. It's that ocean.
yeah.
It's, just as we enter into new stages of our lives, like every moment we're evolving into new stages. And so our curiosity and our perspective is also evolving. And Ayurveda is lifetimes of opportunities to discover more about the human experience and in relationship to the world around us and others around us. And for listeners out there, I just really urge all of us to remember that there are helpers to create a balanced approach for us in whatever stage we are going through, and to seek out traditions that pay attention to all the areas where we experience health in our humanity. There's incredible modern providers, in our modern system out there, and this is by no means an invitation to abandon any of
Mhm.
that. But
Yeah.
what is so beautiful about Ayurveda and tradition systems like this is about complementary foundational care. And when we need Western medicine, it's there, but this is building the balanced foundation under us. And
Mm,
when we are moving through sacred windows, this perspective of care is even more vital because
mm,
it's not what's being addressed in our modern system. And so we have this gift of these ancient texts. I know that you had mentioned it in Charaka Samhita, where that is where the mind is seated in the heart.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so true. Yeah. Because actually Ayurveda works together with in India, a lot of the Ayurvedic doctors are also trained in Western medicine. So there is it is important to have everything. And also that gives us a special place to be able to work in a nurturing capacity. It gives us the opportunity actually to um, to have this different feel that we can bring, and everything has its place and its offering. So yeah, so that is a really important point. And the heart seated in the mind seated in the heart is, functional, and it also has story behind it. And um, part of that is also related to vata, because the mind is doesn't have an organ. It doesn't have we can say the brain, let's say, but on a subtle level, the mind doesn't have a place, really. The mind doesn't have something that it's rooted to. So, because of that, it has these elusive qualities that are also the same qualities of vata. So, vata is made of ether and air, and the mind is also a subtle entity. You can't really ascribe it to something. That's why it can go here and there. And that's why we have all these systems that are, yoga, bringing the mind to the body, joining. And in Ayurveda, swastha, which is health, means to be situated in the self. And it's also related to what we call sama agni, sama dosha. That's all of the health on all the levels. So the agni, the doshas, the dhatus, the tissues, the senses, all of these parts are all taken into the definition of health. So the this aspect of being situated in the self is directly related to the mind, and so many practices are for that purpose. Yoga is for the mind. Yoga is, it's approached in a physical way here, but the origin of of yoga is this bringing the mind, situating the mind into the body or into the self to become related to the self, the truth self, the true. So when we talk about situating the mind and the mind being situated, that's the root of the mind being in the heart, is that we are creating this container, this grounding for something which is moving, elusive, all the qualities of Vata, light, fast, erratic. So part of the nurturing that we do too, in terms of balancing, is supporting our unctuous qualities, our ojas in the body. And that is also providing the soil and the container and the earth for this to to be held in clarity and so on. So again, we return to Vata a little bit. Vata is dry in nature, as you know, dry, rough, immobile, erratic. So if we have two things that are irritating Vata, let's say you are in the Vata time, postpartum, you have Vata imbalance, let's say as well. And you maybe have an affinity to a balance of the mind because we all have what we call kavagunyas, which are these weak spots in the body that you can call or vulnerable spots. So, we could have multiple aspects of Vata working in our body. And if it's in the mind, then we can have certain tendencies there. But when we speak about ojas and building the tissues and building our strength and vitality and rejuvenating, especially having rejuvenation, then we're combating the dry, rough, depleting aspects of Vata.
Mm.
So we're bringing that unctuous treatment back into the system so it's properly nourished. And then all the systems are nourished. So the mind can rest in its place. It's not also dry erratic. It's being grounded. And also we can go further into the channels in the body. So we also can work very specifically with channels in the body through treatments, through Sattva Vachaya Chikitsa, which we can apply maybe mantra or meditation as well. That's another branch. So breathing, uh, oils, relatedness, therapeutic alliance. There's so many ways that we can work with the body, with the mind as well, in a nourishing way. So when we talk about anxiety or the mind states, we say if your ojas is here, your anxiety or your mental state is here. If your ojas is here, your fluctuating, anxious, and erratic mind is going to be here. So we try to bring that ojas up to support the entire system and
Mm.
mind has benefit. So, so we can say the mind has this home in the heart. It roots in the heart, and then also we can also say that it has a home there, a grounding there. And the heart is so much connected also to our sense of ourself. So that's also where that nourishment of this self-love is. Um, it doesn't quite encompass the entirety of what that statement is, but we could say it like that. That also that trust and that self-love, we can also think about the fact that we are not only just on a surface level making ourselves feel good and nurturing the transition, but we are doing real therapy to our inner self when we can bring that love and we can nourish our system. So again, back to what you were saying, all together, uh, just we're one, we're not all kinds of. Yeah, so we try to become one by nourishing the self. So
Mm. Carrie, thank you so much. I'm so excited for our guest lecture this summer. For those of you listening, we are so blessed to host some incredible guest instructors, which is part of the program when students join. Um, Carrie, I just really appreciate the work that you're doing, and um, I will be sure for those of you listening to make sure that Carrie's website will be available on the show notes. Please continue to follow her. You're such a resource for women's health and sacred window care and mental health and Ayurveda. And Carrie, I just really appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you today. And this has been so nourishing. I feel like just through this conversation, my ojas has grown. My my vata has started to drop. So thank you for that.
thank you so much. It's so nice to have this time together. After we had our phone conversation, which was so nice, and I was just so looking forward to it. So I'm really looking forward to the guest contribution. Happy to contribute any way. People can feel free as well. I always feel that it's important to know you can always come as you are. We are always all coming as we are. So there's no problem or difficulty that's too much. We're never too much. So yeah, I'm just really looking forward to more time together, more discussion, and more sharing and being connected. So, thanks so much for having me here.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks so much.
Shanti, Shanti.
The Center for Sacred Window Studies has been training postpartum care providers, professionals who work with new families, and individuals passionate about postpartum care since 2018. We regularly host live free events alongside our online and in-person training and certification programs. Hop on our newsletter list to get direct access to all of our events and community support gatherings. Our mission is not only in training conscious postpartum care providers, but in fostering a robust, informed, and thriving community of postpartum professionals. Once you step inside, you're family forever. Visit www.sacredwindowstudies.com to add your email to our newsletter list. You can support our work by subscribing to the Sacred Window podcast and sharing with someone you know who would love it. Thanks for being here and participating in the culture-wide shift that recognizes the need for and the importance of conscious postpartum care.